Right guys, Memo here with another fundamentals video, and today we want to talk about the decision making in TFT, how you can improve on that, and how challenger players usually think throughout the game. Obviously stage 1 is pretty obvious, we just hold as many units as possible, but in 2-1 is a pivotal moment of the game where you need to make your decision based on the things that you have, the conditions that you are under, and then it's really important to go towards the correct side of the tree, right? The right branch of the tree, because you don't want to end up not going for any of these, or like not like trying to go for a win streak without these conditions met, because then usually what will happen in the end is you will either have not enough HP or not enough gold. So we want to maximize our resources and to have a chance of building a really strong board in the late game. So we want to keep the fundamentals correct. Obviously, not everything here will stay the same, right? Sometimes the meta knowledge is also very important, but this is a really rough estimate where you can follow like most of the rules. Like take it with a grain of salt, but as a rule of thumb, if 3 out of these 4 conditions are met, you can play for a win streak. If none of these conditions are met or only one, you play for a lose streak, right? And the conditions are, do I have an item slam, right? This should be pretty obvious. Obviously, you're much stronger and have a much higher chance of winning fights if you have a slam. Same goes for upgraded units. So how many 2-star units do I have? And then also, do these units fit with each other, right? Can I build synergies around these upgraded units? And lastly, do I have an augment that gives me an immediate power spike, right? Anything that usually gives an item is very strong in stage 2. With combat augment, you have to be a bit careful here. Some combat augments are really good in the late game, but not that good in the early game. When I say combat augment here, I obviously mean augments that give you immediate spikes that are great right away. So let's go to the left branch of the tree. Let's say 3 out of 4 conditions are met, and we want to go for a win streak, right? Should be pretty obvious then that we pick a strong early combat augment as well, and we level up to level 4. This just gives you the highest chances of winning fights, obviously. And while we are doing that, we should keep looking out for further upgrades. I feel like a lot of people are just stuck on their board. They just want to build around it and are not really utilizing their shops to the maximum. So this is something to look out for. Always try to build your strongest, because that gives you obviously the highest chances of winning your fights. Obviously, you will not always successfully win streak. Sometimes you will have some of these conditions met and still mix streak. No worries, guys. If you did level under these conditions, you will always kill a lot of units and save a lot of HP and have decent money. But let's say you did successfully win streak, then we have another condition check, right? Now we check again, do I drop slammable items out of the crux, right? In stage 3, do I have enough components, or did I get the components that I wanted to slam a meaningful item, which gives me again a power spike? Did I find enough upgrades on my way, right? Did I win streak with only 1 or 2 upgrades, or do I actually have more pairs, or 3 or 4 upgrades, maybe a 2-cost upgrade already? And then obviously we get to the 3-2 augment decision again. Now we want to decide, can I keep my win streak? If yes, we want to take another augment that gives us another immediate spike, since in this case we are still on a win streak, right? And one last thing that's a bit more advanced is scouting. Obviously, if other players are beatable, right? So if you scout in stage 3 and you see someone has a 3-cost upgraded, or multiple 2-cost and 3-cost units upgraded, or it's a 1-cost reroll meta, right? And you see someone already got their 1-cost 3-star, it just usually doesn't make sense to contest them on their win streak. Usually they will just beat you. So it's better to either drop your streak, right, and save some HP, prepare your stage 4. Like, don't invest too much gold into keeping the streak. But if you have the money and you have multiple pairs, it's completely fine to take a combat augment, roll like 5 to 10 gold. Like I said, if you have pairs, I would not roll if I don't have pairs. at least 3 or 4. And then obviously you want to position against the strongest player because that's the biggest threat to your win streak. Obviously then we will end up in stage 4, like all these branches, and we will have to evaluate our spot again. Are we playing for a win out, or are we playing for a placement? Like, are we trying to just get a top 4, maybe a top 3? Maybe sometimes you're happy with a 5th or a 6th as well, right? Depending on how good your spot is, you will then have to decide if you play for a win out, which means then we will keep our economy strong. We will still greed a lot of money, since hitting your max cap usually requires a lot of money, right? And then we will just position against the people that we could beat, or in a way where we could just save HP by killing a lot of units. So yeah, you can still play for a win out and roll a bit on 8 or in stage 4 in general, right? But I would try to keep it above 30 if I'm playing for a win out, because around 30 you can probably still make 10 gold a turn, which is like the most efficient breakpoint. And then obviously also pick an augment that gives you a win out chance. Anything that has a high win rate is usually great for this. And if not, we play for a placement. We invest all our gold pretty early on in stage 4, meaning either in 4-1 or 4-2. And we try to build the strongest spot possible and focus on positioning. So basically, you either greed your gold when you play for a win out, right? Or you greed your HP when you play for a placement type of game. So keep these two mindsets in mind when you are playing in stage 4. What type of stage 4 do I want to play? But we are not finished yet. We didn't go through all the branches. If you did mixed streak, so if you didn't get your successful win streak in stage 2, a lot of people will feel a bit too poor, not know what they have to do now. Most of the time an econ augment is great in those cases, because it will just give you the money that you need to hit your board, right? Because in this branch of the tree, you're the poorest, right? In win streak or lose streak, you just have this extra streak money, which helps you a lot. But if you're mixed streaking, you don't have that. But you still have a solid amount of HP, and HP is also a resource, right? So yeah, most of the time, try to pick an econ augment and prepare your stage 4. Angle a cheap comp. What I mean by that is, there's a lot of good 2-cost and 3-cost units in every set. This is also something important to know. Understand the meta, understand which 2-cost and 3-cost is strong, and which 3-cost with a lot of frontline, for example, can stabilize you, even on a level 8 board, for example. Because those are just more realistic to hit. You can even roll on level 6, 7 for your 2-cost and 3-cost upgrades, and then just go level 8 later on, or even try to play reroll, right? Those, like, all of that is possible, but it's better to angle something that's cheaper and that's not that contested from here. And usually in stage 4, you will also have a game where you play for a placement, just because you are on average just a lot that you don't have the money usually to play for a win out. But obviously there's always exceptions to these cases, but I'm just saying like 70 or 80% of the time you will play for a placement out of mixed streak. And even if, like, this could also just be second place, right? This doesn't have to be only 4th or 5th. This can also just mean you play for a second, which is also completely fine. Yeah, about the lose streak side of things, we didn't talk about too much yet. Obviously, lose streaking is very, very strong still. There's a lot of benefits or advantages that come with lose streaking. For example, the lose streak augments usually are a lot better once you proc them or once you get them. Usually they are like 1.5 augments, I feel like, from the strength level. Anything that basically gives you a delayed spike is great for this. But also econ augments are great as well, as far as lose streak augments go. What else should you do on a lose streak? For sure, prioritize best in slot, or like components that are very highly contested. So usually it will be components like bow, if it's like a attack speed AD meta, or a tier if it's like an AP meta where your unit needs to cast a lot. So yeah, those two components are usually components that are very contested. But yeah, obviously you should then also angle for a comp that has a high win rate. It doesn't make sense to lose too much HP in the early game and then angle something that is not winning out or that has no chances of winning any fights after like stage 5. Because you already sacked so much HP, you can't sack the HP later on in the game. So angling a comp that is maybe a bit more expensive, but also has just a much higher win rate is definitely the way to go. This doesn't have to be true every game, but this is also like something where it's like 60 to 70% of time you should angle a comp that has good chances of still winning fights in stage 5, stage 6. Yeah. Obviously, this should be pretty obvious now. The next point, hit your econ intervals. Very important to just maximize your econ. You already have the advantage that you don't have to play a board, so you can just play some cheap units and hit your econ intervals. Very important. Obviously, money will be big for your stabilization in stage 3. And yeah, you need to have a lot of money to do that, to not fall behind in econ and HP, right? You're on the lose streak, you're usually falling in the HP department a lot. But also money is a resource as well. So if you get a lot of money for losing a little bit of HP, it can definitely be worth it. And this is the biggest part of the lose streak. I think the hardest part for players that are not as experienced, preparing your stage 3. What I mean by that is, make sure you're holding 1 and 2 cost units while in stage 2. So your stabilization in stage 3 is much easier. So anything that you need for your trade, for your 2 or 3 cost carry, you need to hold. It's sometimes even okay to lose some money for that, especially in the later runs of stage 2, like 2-5, 2-6. It's definitely fine to lose 1 gold for to hold your stabilization transition. So yeah, keep that in mind. And stage 3, we want to tailor our augment. What I mean by that is, in 3-1, you don't want to play traits that are not good for your augment selection. So anything that could give you an emblem that you don't want to take is pretty bad. And especially since you are on a lose streak still, you don't care too much if you lose 1 more fight, right? Since you get just another 3 extra gold from your lose streak, which is completely fine. And you don't decrease the odds of you finding a good augment. Obviously, then you want to pick a combat augment. Usually you don't want to go for too big of lose streaks, right? Usually like 6 or 8 is the most. And that's why we obviously want to pick a combat augment. Here again, take this with a grain of salt. There's obviously exceptions to this where you can go for a longer lose streak, where you can even maybe take double econ augments. But that's always a bit dependent on the meta and what units are strong. But for the fundamentals, where you play in a meta that's a bit more balanced, it's for sure a combat augment, and then try to turning your lose streak into a win streak in 3-2. Obviously don't invest too much yet, but you can roll a little bit on 6. That's definitely possible. Just make sure you're not over-rolling, so don't roll to 0, basically. Try to keep it above like 30, and try to make the best out of your shops while you're rolling on 30. If you can maximize the value of each shop, you will have an easy time stabilizing. But that's obviously a skill for like another time, like understanding how to maximize your shops and on what other units you can stabilize on. And then obviously we go to stage 4 again, out of the lose streak as well. Are we playing for a win out? So usually when you are playing lose streak, you have a much higher chance of playing for a win out, in my experience at least, since you have more money. You had the choice of picking scaling augments, meaning augments that proc later into the game, which are much stronger than other augments, than the standard augments. And you had the privilege of choosing your components. So if you did everything correctly out of a lose streak, you should, like 60 to 70% of time, again here with a grain of salt, play for a win out, and not for a placement. But obviously, if something went wrong, or the game just doesn't feel like a good spot, or you miss your roll down completely, you will also just try to play for a placement and roll most of your gold in stage 4. So yeah, I hope this cleared up some stuff for you guys. I hope this helped. I know some of the stuff here is really basic, but I think it's still very interesting to see what the decision making is. For most players, I hope this is not too... yeah, I just hope this helps. Leave a like, leave a comment if you did enjoy this type of content, and see you guys